Welcome, everyone, to the Metal Roundup, your one-stop shop for what's the latest happenings in the metal music scene. We have the usual hosts, of course, myself, Steve OG, and Metal Burb, and Drew Fortune. And we have a special guest today in the form of Runty himself. Welcome, Runty. How are you? And how long have you been doing the YouTube reaction content?
I've been doing it for about 3 years now. And yeah, just been putting out unedited content, and yeah, people are still coming by and watching it. So yeah.
Great. What inspired you in the first place to start doing reactions on YouTube?
In high school, I got into like this headspace where I thought rock and metal music is like objectively better than any other music, and yeah, that kind of like metal elitist, rock elitist kind of thing, and yeah, and later in 2020, I started to write down my thoughts on different albums, and I eventually started recording myself reacting to stuff, and then happened to start putting it up on YouTube. And people have been requesting a whole bunch of different stuff, which I've been enjoying, and it's been getting some traction. So yeah.
Nice. What were the first kind of uploads? What artists were you checking out three years ago that kind of had the most uptake and interest from people?
I think Dance Gavin Dance was the biggest one. That I think I got like 3,000 views from, I think, Downtown Battle Mountain 2 in a couple weeks. And yeah, people keep on requesting similar stuff to Swancore, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun ever since.
That makes sense. You're heavily into the Swancore stuff, it seems like.
Yeah, it's pretty much not all that I listen to, but I think Swancore kind of took over like a lot of like the pop listening that I used to do. And yeah, and it's been a lot of fun to listen to, except for the drama.
Tillian, Kurt, or Johnny Craig, which one? Or Andrew?
Andrew. I love Andrew so much. I love Idola. I think Idola is better than Dance Gavin Dance at this point, in my opinion. But yeah, I love Andrew a lot. I love Kurt, and yeah, Johnny and Tillian are great, but they also have their flaws, of course.
This is all so much deeper than my DGD knowledge is. I know like 3 or 4 songs, and I've liked them, but yeah,
they got so much music. It's hard to really do a deep dive. You got to do a Runty thing and just check out an album, and then you're sucked in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like they kind of add like many different stuff whenever you get, especially like the Tillian era, like the first like 3 Tillian albums are very complicated, and then they kind of get a bit more simplistic and more easier to digest. But yeah, very interesting band to check out from start to finish.
You've reminded me of the early days of having a YouTube channel. Your first video that gets a lot of views and gets a lot of subs on it, you then realize, but my first, I think, that did fairly well was like a Nightwish reaction. And I'm not into Nightwish. But what it meant was that most of my subscribers at one point were like Nightwish fans. It's like, uh-oh, like, what am I going to do? They're all requesting more Nightwish songs. I'm like, I don't know if I really want to go down that rabbit hole, guys.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
Over time, it spreads out.
Well, I think that happens with everyone with Nightwish, doesn't it? It's like once you touch Nightwish, it's just by default everyone is like, "Oh, you're in now," you know. And it's whether or not you choose to, like, you can like choose to kind of like, I guess, build some of your audience off that, and then like go in a different direction, or you can just get sucked into. And it's not just Nightwish; it happens with like a lot of
baby metal.
Baby metal. Kind of happened with me and Tool, but I actually really like Tool's music, and it was just a very fun coincidence that it was like music that I actually really fucking got into, and also the most rabid fan base you could ever imagine that were like, do this, and the content just made itself, you know, because I was enjoying it. Everyone was like, do their entire discography track by track, not album by album, track by track. So I was literally just like, for like 6 months straight, I just had like a new video every day, because it was like, all right, I'll just check out this interlude from Tool that's 30 seconds long and make a full video of it, you know. And
people like watch their like live performances too, which get a lot of views, which is insane to me, which I wouldn't think it would be that interesting to watch a live performance or a reaction to a live performance.
I never really got that either. It was like there's certain videos, like, I mean, there was a Danny Carey video of him performing Numa. There was like a drum playthrough when he was playing it live. I did a reaction to that, and like, I understand why people would enjoy seeing someone's reaction to that, but I never understood the reactions to like the phone camera live performances. You know, it's like people reacting to that, and it's like shit audio, and you're, you know, I just whatever.
It would depend on the band. I think Tool live is not the most interesting thing to watch a reaction to because it's mostly visualizations. But if it's something like when Four from Sleep Token did a like vocals with Bring Me the Horizon doing Antivist, then that's kind of more of a sensational thing to watch. I think.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, Nightwish videos, they always do like super well, even like the live videos too. I was going to say that I was about to do a rabbit hole into like just making like more videos on them, but then I forgot that my very first video like had the commentary said that all the members look like they have weird group sex. So that didn't do very well. The fan base went after me. They so that was really early on in my channel, like first year. So Nightwish fans do not like me.
Yeah, it can be really hard to resist the temptation of like when you are starting out with a YouTube channel and you might be trying different styles of videos, and then you might just be like, you know, stumble across a comment that's like, check out Nightwish, and you check it out, and then all of a sudden your video has like 20,000-30,000 views, and you're like, okay, right. It kind of like, it's like, you know, dangling the carrot a little bit, and you're like, okay, I could just continuously do this, you know. And you can see the channels that like just follow that, and I've been guilty of that in the past, where you just get that little like carrot dangled and you're like, okay, I'll keep going, you know, and you're not really loving the music, but you can see the channels that are literally just like following that carrot for the rest of their like YouTube time on YouTube, you know, and which is fair enough, you know, do what you want, but you can see it's just very obvious and blatant when there is that channel that's like, because we've been there, you know, that's why it's so obvious to spot for me, because I've like been in that position before where I'm just kind of following it. It's like, oh, follow me, you know, here's the views, but yeah. You soon kind of get burnt out on that stuff if you're not genuinely enjoying it.
Yeah, Tank the Tech had one of the best pivots actually with that. He genuinely did love Nightwish, but you know, he was like a Nightwish reaction channel like his first year. He was doing a lot of other bands, but it was like primarily Nightwish, and then he just pivoted into what he is now. He's massive now. So there's ways you can do it.
For sure.
Now, Runty, you mentioned there you're an unedited approach. You've done that, I guess, from the start. You're still doing that. What are your thoughts on that? Is that for ease of a frictionless process to make sure you can put your content together? Is that a conscious choice? What is your stance on the editing side of things?
It wasn't really a choice at first because, you know, all I had was a laptop and a camera and a microphone, and I didn't have any like editing experience or anything like that. And whenever I did start editing videos, which the only videos I edit are the full album reactions that will get blocked on YouTube. And I thought about going to just editing everything and stuff like that, but I realized there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I would rather do than edit. And what I'm doing seems to be fine. And it's just, now I'm so glad that I didn't do it, because there's so much other stuff that I do. Like I play guitar, I play video games, I do a whole bunch of other stuff than doing YouTube. And it's nice to record something, make a thumbnail, and that takes about like 45 minutes, and I put the video up, and then I forget about it and just do whatever I want to do, and then I can go on my phone and see if my video is doing well. So very stress-free.
Nice. That sounds very healthy, for sure.
Yeah, that's something I've always liked about your channel, Runty, is like I feel like in the age that myself, Steve, and Burp talk about all the time with like YouTube and the Mr. Beastification of YouTube as a whole, not just like reaction videos and stuff. I feel like you've always stayed pretty true to just like authenticity, if that makes sense. You've always like, anytime, like it's like there's very few channels that I can rely on to kind of get that authentic, regardless of whether or not I agree with your opinion or not. It's always like feeling like you're one of the people that I trust, just in terms of like a friendship kind of thing, you know. It feels very authentic. Like I can sit down and watch your video, you know, and just feel like, regardless, like I actually don't care if I agree with your opinion or not. I just want to see what you have to say, because I know it's coming from a place of authenticity. So I think you do that very, very well.
Yeah, I also see a lot of people say like it feels like like whenever people watch my videos, it feels like I'm listening with a buddy or something like that. Yeah. Like especially when it comes to like album reaction or the full album reactions. Like especially like there's some albums like Viljarta and the Contortionists, a bunch of different more proggier bands where people really have that feel or talk about that feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's the closest you can get to that initial thing, I think, of why reaction channels started in the first place. You discover a band you like, and then you find a friend. You're like, listen, just come with me. Sit. I want to show you the song, and it is just two of you in a room listening to music. And the less, I suppose, like editing side of thing you add to it, the more close you'll get to that kind of rawness of experience, which definitely has its own value.
Yeah. I think that value becomes even more like prominent as well with the likes of the bands that you mentioned there, like Viljarta and stuff. It's like, they're pretty popular in our space, but I feel like when there is a reaction channel or a reaction that goes out, when you can genuinely tell that someone is interested or has had previous experience with listening to the band and they're just genuinely a fan, because it's such a niche. I'll use Viljarta as the example, but there's plenty of other bands that are similar that have really niche core, like strong fan bases. I feel like that connection can be so much stronger between like the creator and the viewer, because you can search a Drake reaction or whatever, any huge artist, and you'll get thousands of people. So the connection isn't that so much strong because it's not very niche, you know what I mean? So something like Viljarta, I feel like you can really feel a strong connection between people who are watching the videos, because I've had the same experience with Viljarta and other bands as well, where you can really like feel the passion come through the comments, which is so sick.
Yeah, especially like Viljarta. Fun fact, I didn't even know who like Viljarta is or what they were whenever I discovered them. I just found a random ass band on my Spotify artist, and I was like, I'm going to listen to this. And it was Mustad, the first album, and it fucking blew me away. It's probably one of my favorite reaction videos I've ever done, because that was my first. I actually said, like, holy shit, there's a lot of Thal influence in here while I'm like listening to like Reflections, and people I think like the top comment was like, Thal influence, Pepe laugh. He doesn't even know that they're like the original people who did the genre. But that's like the funnest experience about doing the reaction stuff, is like whenever you pick a random band and you listen to it for the first time and they just fucking blow you away. And that's always been a very fun thing, especially earlier. I don't really do that much anymore. I do a lot more like
I was about to say
recent
like,
releases.
That's an incredible kind of risky thing to do time-wise. Like just pick a random band, like, all right, we can record this. Like, this could be nothing interesting. It could be garbage.
Yeah, no. Well, there's been a lot of other albums I started listening to, and I was like, I'm not feeling it or whatever, and I come back to it later on, and I ended up liking them. But at that time, I was kind of like picking and choosing what I like and what I didn't like.
Yeah. Speaking of Thal, what are your thoughts on Mirar? That's getting a lot of hype lately. I saw that you made a video on them, but I haven't actually watched it yet.
I kind of have a hate and love relationship with pure instrumental bands, where I think like 3 years ago, I probably would have loved it, but now I'm way more into like vocals and screaming and all that type of stuff and lyricism, where whenever that's not there, it's missing something for me. But music overall, it's very fucking wild, and I want to see a vocalist in that band. I think that would be very cool, working out the instrumentals, creating a bit more space between like breakdowns and all that type of stuff with the vocals. I think that would be very cool.
They have a couple tracks with vocals. It's not on the EP, but it does sound cool with vocals. Steve or Drew, you made one video, but Steve, have you heard of Mirar at all?
I think only I've seen the name on someone's title, or it might even be one of Drew's thumbnails or titles or something. But no, I've certainly never heard them.
It's Viljarta, which I don't know if you listened to them yet either, Steve, but like basically it's reinventing guitars.
Right. Viljarta, I have heard one of the albums. There's something Mastered and Forte. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a pretty wild experience sonically.
Yeah, Mirar is just like, it's wild. The sounds that they create, it's basically classical Thal. Nick Nocturnal is really shouting them out, so they're getting a lot of hype lately. I really like what they're doing. I love innovation guitar-wise. My just short review on the EP is that it seems like a lot of style over substance right now. I feel like the songs don't really feel like actual songs, just a bunch of random Thal ideas put together. And I think it's too much of a good thing. I think there's so much noises happening that's kind of overbearing. When you hear it's like it's kind of like it gets annoying after some time. Like, okay, this is cool, and then a different beat happens. I'm like, that's cool, but like, where's the song? It just feels like random Thal pieces together. So I feel like there's potential for more with that group, but it's a cool EP for sure, just especially from a guitar perspective.
Yeah, it's a fun listen. it's like a fun listen at first, but like there's nothing really to come back to, at least for me personally.
Yeah.
Substance.
Yeah, I call a lot of that like style of music forklift core because it literally sometimes sounds like a forklift going like with like drums and shit behind it. But yeah, I'm yet to check out that EP though. Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it because, to be honest, the music that's exciting me a lot lately is like, it doesn't even have to be music that I necessarily think I'm gonna like from a first listen. It's more stuff that's like challenging, because when you get a lot of like the same kind of rinse and repeat styles over and over again, you can kind of just predict stuff. So when you get something that's like so experimental, like the last few albums I can think of that I've really like, I haven't even loved them, but just that stick out to me is the new Darko album, the what was the other band that we talked about in one of the last episodes? Angel Killer Zero was the name. Diamond Construct. Just like these outrageously wacky albums that have come out in the past couple of months, even though I haven't like loved them and I don't see myself going back to them much, they're just the ones that are kind of sticking out in my mind the most because they're just so experimental and so ridiculous. So I'm looking forward to checking out the Mirar album, but from what I've heard from them, they're kind of like, I'm kind of like 50-50 on them. Yeah, they're very, very different, but it's like what you guys are saying. I mirror the exact, pardon the pun, I mirror the exact same feelings, because it's a bit too much, you know. It's kind of at a point where you're like, am I even enjoying this, or is it just fun noises, you know?
Is it largely instrumental as well, right, you're saying?
Well, I've heard like, I think the track I made a video on was Contrast. I think it's Contraste. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. I've just come back from France, so I probably should know how to pronounce that. But anyway, I think I did a video on that one. It was one of them. I think I did Deluge as well. Again, fuck's sake, the one. Are these a French
like Italian?
Band as well? They're Italian. Okay, well now I look.
I'm pretty sure.
But anyway, I've done a video on them before, and I really enjoyed that particular song. I think they had a lot of groove in it, and it was very, very like Viljarta-esque. But I think it was Madeline. Was it the one that Nick? It was the first video that Nick like really pushed. I think it was just like, okay, this is way too much. It was like 10 minutes or whatever the fuck that song was, and I was like, it's too much now at this point, you know.
That's the one I made a video for too, and actually, yeah. I noticed that there was copyright, and then I kind of disputed the claim, basically saying like, you know, here to help promote the song, and they rejected the copyright, and I'm like, I unlisted the video. I'm like, nah. Yeah. That's how I kind of roll. I kind of like test the waters is what I do with my videos, and see if they're ready to play. They want to play ball with me, and if they don't, I'm just like, okay, then I'll just unlist the video. But it was there for a bit.
Yeah. I wish I had that problem right now, Burp. I wish I had that problem.
Yeah, I don't know if Runty knows this. Drew's in a whole world of problem at the moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've kind of spoken about it a lot already. Well, like, just offline, with the, like, well, no, you just even, like, I guess it would have been a cool segue off Runty talking about, like, not editing the videos and stuff. And for context, for anyone who's watching or listening on Spotify, my YouTube channel was recently completely demonetized, which was a great start to my holiday. But I got an email from YouTube basically just saying, hey, thanks for the 7 or 8 years you've been doing this content for, but we've now decided that it's not monetizable anymore. Which, to be honest, it's obviously a hit no matter what way you look at it, but not the biggest hit in terms of like my actual income streams, but it's still just very frustrating, especially because of the reasons that I'll go into. But basically they flagged me for like reused content, which their definitions of was hilarious, which I have a note on here. But I obviously did my dispute because I looked at the reasoning that they gave for demonetizing the channel and then compared it to what my content is and was like, okay, you're telling me that my channel can't be monetized because of this reason? Here's what I need to do, but I am doing this to be monetized. Like, it was very hypocritical, and basically it's caused a few problems behind the scenes. But the reason they gave, or one of the actual things that they've written down as a do for like channels that should be monetized, was reaction videos where you comment on the original video. Like, that was like a do in the feedback that they gave my channel for like what you can do to improve your channel, to make it monetizable.
You're already doing that.
Yeah, they basically just said like that was one of the points. It was reaction videos where you comment on the original video, which is like the most vague feedback. They did give you other points, but a lot of it was like, if you're a movie channel, don't just put the whole movie in the video and like sit there. It was like, okay, well, it's not relative to me. This is the only one that I can see that actually is directly relevant to my channel. And it's exactly what I do. It's reaction videos where you comment on the original. So I did my whole appeal. I like made a very refined video, in my opinion, at least. I know I sent it to the lads. I don't know if you guys have any like pointers on what I could have. But anyway, I did like a 2.5 minute video, and I went point by point on exactly what they said I should address in my video. And within like 24 hours, they had already come back and they said, appeal didn't demonstrate enough value add editing. And then just said, the editing shown in your appeal didn't substantially change the original work. Taking someone else's content and making minimal changes still violates our reuse content policy. So they basically just said, nah, I have to wait 3 months before I can appeal again. But like, oh
my God,
you know, it's just, what
doesn't
can you do?
make sense to me. Because again, like when you get to the point where you can apply to the partner program, like they will review your channel. And at that point, you would have been doing reaction videos. Yeah. Well, I mean, I certainly was. And like the verdict was approved. Yeah. So like it is a agreeable, monetizable thing for any videos that do not contain copyright that's claimed, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't understand how they'd later on review essentially the same channel and be like, oh, no, this is not. It sounds to me like someone else has reviewed it based on some kind of nudge they got through their own automated system. It sounds like maybe it's related to YouTube Shorts or something. Yeah. And then they've reviewed it. And whoever is in charge of that particular review ticket has decided on their own interpretation of the guidelines that this is how it falls. Yeah. And that seems daft.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be interested to see, like, it's like a 2.5 minute video that I did to appeal. I'd be interested, like, after I can just send it to you again or whatever. And just to give your own thoughts on it and what I could have actually potentially added. But I specifically made the video tailor-made to address what they tell you to address, because they're like, in the appeal process you should, you know, talk about this structure. Yeah, basically they give you the structure to talk about and explain why your channel meets these criteria. So I specifically related everything that I do to that, and they just basically gave me the most like blunt response ever. So I was like, cheers on that one. But yeah, so I mean, again, it's not the end all be all for me at the moment, but it's also like one of these things that feels very unfair considering the amount of reaction channels on the internet, because it's kind of like, if this rule applies to me, why is it just my channel that it seems to be applying to? Or I guess to bring you guys in, could this be something that is the very, what's the expression? Not the tip of the iceberg, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it could be a wave of things to come, you know? It's kind of scary as well, you know?
It is scary. It is scary, and it's super unfair. I don't know what to do in that situation. Your appeal was justified too. Maybe like actually put out a public video for your audience so they know. And then because I don't think you did that, right? And just let your audience know and get some pushback, because there's some serious bullshit that's happening with your channel being demonetized. We all have the same channel. We all do the same thing. We all try to add value to these videos. And for some reason, for you to be demonetized, man, it sucks. It's also scary because, just like you're saying, the tip of the iceberg, maybe this could be, you know, going around to other reaction channels, and that is a very scary thing. But at the same time, labels are working with us too, so we're working around copyright, and it just doesn't even make sense. You're not like the copyright makes sense when you're really like repurposing their video, just uploading it to your channel without any commentary. They're basically stealing content. But if you're adding value, then that's fair use, and they label that as fair use in their own guidelines. Yeah. So you're doing everything right. So
there's literally a drop down that says reaction video is reason for fair use.
Those
guidelines should be to prevent people, as Burb was saying, from basically just uploading and re-showing the exact thing, and maybe even just having your face on the side, just going, like that would be just you're using someone else's content and putting your face there and like hoping to get some views from it, which is not what we're doing. There's a critical assessment to it.
Like I can
review, just totally fair.
Yeah, like I can certainly understand if it was like specifically like for a short form content video or whatever. For example, like I can definitely understand where, if I have like a 40-minute like reaction to a new album that comes out, and I use a 30-second clip of like me reacting to a moment in the actual album, and then I post that as a short where maybe I like say a word or two, but it's like 30 seconds of literally a 40-minute video where I'm talking and I'm giving criticism and I'm doing my intro, and I do so much more like additives to it. I understand how like YouTube might automate that and say, this person has just uploaded a 30-second video of him doing nothing. But the problem is with that is that in their feedback and their criticism, they don't actually offer the particular examples of videos that you may have slipped up. Like my channel has over 1,000 videos. So like they don't tell you, here's an example of where you are clearly doing what we're accusing of you of doing. It just says you have 3 months to clean up your channel based on the like rules we've given you. but the rules they've given me and the guidelines suggest that my content is okay. So it's kind of like, you know, you're kind of stuck in this middle weird ground of like, do I spend 3 months deleting half of my channel just to find out that they're going to say the exact same thing again because they're not telling me? Or do I just accept the L and just move on, you know? Because it doesn't, because even the video that they're talking about in the feedback where they say the editing shown in your appeal didn't substantially change the original work, regardless of whether or not that's factually correct on their end, which I'm sure it technically is because of what they're saying, the video that I showed for my appeal is like me editing the following in reverse reaction, which again, like Bert mentioned, is one of the labels that reaches out to us specifically to say, we are going to take off the copyright. And they're like the best label for it as well. Like they know that these videos are going to get a lot of views for like reaction channels with falling in reverse. And they still take the copyright off. So like the labels are literally saying, we don't actually care about this. This is our content originally, but if you want to react to it... It's not even
that they don't care. They see the value in it.
Yeah.
They see the usefulness to it. It's not a reuse. It is an elevation of it somehow.
Yeah.
Is this a good segue to move on to Ronnie Radke shouting at reaction channels because he sees the value in it too?
Yeah.
So Runty, I know you have some feelings about him, which we could dive deep into, but did you watch our last episode of the Metal Roundup with when we were talking about Craig Reynolds by any chance?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so he's not a big fan of reaction channels, and you know everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But then you have the complete opposite. It's funny because like Steve, Drew, you guys brought it to my attention on that day, and I don't know if it was like on the same day or at least the next day where Ronnie Radke shouted out reactors like within 24 hours. This is the complete opposite kind of idea where Ronnie's just like, you know, you guys don't get enough like love. Like I want to show you guys out. He didn't actually name any of us. It was primarily like the people that are into rap. But I thought that was really, really cool for a musician of that caliber to actually shout out.
Size.
That was really, really, that was really cool of him to do something like that.
Because he understands, like he's a smart person. He gets the business side of things. He's not just like a creative mind. He's also business savvy. So he can speak to that element of it as well as enjoying the kind of reaction to the creativity as well.
He articulated it well too. He says like it's not the reason, but it's basically like we're like a puzzle piece. We're part of that reason. So it was cool for him to actually like acknowledge it and understand what we're doing too.
Yeah, it was kind of weirdly coincidental with the podcast episode going out about like us talking about Craig's opinion, and then like it was almost
like, did he watch it?
Is he watching it? Like what's going on here? But I doubt it as well. But yeah, no, he's always kind of kept his ear to the ground. Like he's reacted to my reaction to Popular Monster before. I think did he do you as well, Burp? He used to go on Twitch and just react to everyone, and then someone was clipping those videos and posting the reactions, and then the amount of. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he shouted me out like my like the first year of doing it, like no way I got shouted out so early on. So it makes you more inclined to feature the band when you're like, wow, when a band of this caliber really likes your videos, you're kind of more inclined to do them. So, and I do like a lot of their songs. Like, yeah, sure, a lot of Falling Reverse songs are cheesy, especially their early stuff. Oh my god, but the new stuff is like really good, and so it's cool that he's just shouting people out. And you know, one thing he doesn't do is he doesn't watch my reviews, which I feel like is like a big part of my videos is the discussion portion. So I would actually pause my videos halfway through and call him out. I'm like, Ronnie, I know you don't watch my reviews afterwards, but I gotta say this part of the song is what I'm liking. And actually with Orion, he did a funny thing too. He's like, bro, stop with the editing. He called him out because he was editing way too much.
And Orion did apparently do a little bit less editing as a response to that later on. But like equally, that's part of Orion's USP is the amount of editing he does.
I told him to double down. I told him to go even crazier with the editing, but he didn't.
I thought that's what he did, like one video, and then he'd have gotten edited less. I thought that's what happened, but I could have misremembered.
I think I looked at your channel, Ronnie. I don't think you don't seem to have done reactions to Falling in Reverse. Are they not kind of your style, or is Ronnie Radke just a...
I'm kind of in a weird place. I'm one of those people who think about their ethics all the time, and I'm one of those types of people. And I'm still navigating through that conversation about platforming people and stuff like that. And I didn't originally had this feeling, really, for quite a bit, not wanting to put up a lot of like falling in reverse in some certain artists. But yeah, I think I'm really big into like political discussion, philosophical type stuff. A lot of the different issues that he kind of rants about on Twitter or on TikTok, I don't think they're really fruitful. Really, it has nothing to do with the opinion, but how you present it. And whenever you present your ideas like very divisively and stuff like that, I don't know. I don't think it's very helpful, really. And I think also a big part of why Ronnie Radke is so big is his fucking haters.
Yeah.
Because I think they keep on feeding him content while I'm out here, bro. Like, stop. You can, not to say you can end Ronnie's career, but you can end a lot of TikTok, Twitter content if you just be quiet and not give him so much ammunition.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my feeling.
You articulated your stance extremely well, and you're spot on about him actually going back to his haters. His haters help him grow.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. The haters are actually just as bad. Like, there's one tweet that went viral where the guy's like, I would love to curb stomp Ronnie Radke. I'm just like, bro, and then it had like 3,000 likes and hundreds of thousands of views.
Like how could that be the righteous take?
That's not right. It's not righteous at all. Instead, it's very divisive because like I see people hating on Ronnie for sure, and I see Ronnie being kind of a jerk to people too. But like, inciting violence is not the way to do it, and I really feel like it's easy internet points to hate on Ronnie. So it's kind of almost like jumping on a bandwagon a little bit too. Now I understand a lot of people have personal feelings towards things that he says. Personally, I feel like I've always been a little bit conflicted about Ronnie too, Runty, and you articulated it really, really well actually. But I feel like lately the podcast that he's been on lately, and then also the All My Life music video has really changed my perspective on him a lot more. I'm starting to understand him a lot more, and not saying that I agree with everything that he does, but I just feel like he's done some good damage control and done some good PR to change his image in just this past couple months personally.
Yeah, it's a little bit different seeing like what people post on online, TikTok and Twitter, and then listen to like an interview. There's like a lot of political commentators and a lot of people that I see say crazy shit online, and then whenever you go back to like a podcast or them having a conversation, not to say your mind completely changed, but you can see where they're kind of coming from. And that's kind of like the Twitter and the social media stuff that they say online. And Twitter, you can only type so much letters or and words and stuff like that, and you kind of see like the worst part of people like on Twitter or TikTok and stuff like that. But yeah, it really not changes your perspective, but kind of humanizes in a way. Not totally agree with what they're doing at all, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
A big part of that is if something isn't kind just text form, you can project your own confirmation bias or your own expectation of how they might have said that onto the words, and that might be completely not the way it was delivered. So there's a humanity element missing from pure text form of social media or articles and the rest, that in a podcast or a video, you get a lot more of that. And like I've not seen or read everything that Ronnie Radke has ever written or tweeted and the rest. So I have a limited understanding of the things that he said, but everything that I have seen of him in the interviews and the bits of TikToks that I've watched of his, he's got very little tact, I'd say. But the fundamentals of the points he's making, I pretty much entirely agree with. And so there's an interesting discussion to be had in there, but I think the delivery of it might be in such a way that some folks might not be able to see past the flippancy and the wildness of some of the things that he says. But the fundamentals that he's fighting for and some of the things he does with his actions seem to speak in a way that I understand and agree with for the most part. So it's a really unusual place to be.
I hear you, man. I hear you very completely. It's the delivery. His delivery is very confrontational, and that's who he is. And it really rubs people the wrong way. And I wish that it, like, personally, like if he took a more stoic approach, a more civil approach, but that's not him. And guess what? Like, his confrontational approach works too, though. It's giving him so many big numbers. Like, It's giving him a ton of publicity. People love talking about Ronnie Radke, and then and Falling Reverse, and the Twitter. The more people type Ronnie Radke, I'm going to curb stop you, bro. Guess what? It's going to pop off in SEO. It's going to get shown up into Google search. His numbers climb up. He knows exactly what he's doing. He plays into it. And it's just the fact that these people just aren't also self-aware is he's really clever in that regard, that he plays into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Runty, like, obviously it's, you know, if you're not posting videos of him, like, that's just the best way to combat you not liking him. You know what I mean? If you were to get on your channel and platform him on your own channel just to shit on him, like, it just kind of does more for him at the end of the day anyway. So, like, I mean, I think you articulated yourself so much clearer than I've heard a lot of people articulate themselves, not just about Ronnie, but a lot of people just get so wound up in their emotions. And that's, again, what I, like, value so much about your channel as well, is that you're very, like, introspective, and I like how you know, really pay attention to, this is kind of off topic a bit, but, like, even lyrics, and you really, like, think about things a lot deeper than I sometimes even think about stuff, and then I have a different perspective on it completely, you know, and it just feels very relatable. So I think, like, even just the way you've spoken about there, like, clearly if you're not uploading the videos, you don't necessarily want to platform him, but you're not, like, clearly wound up about him. You're not, like, getting emotional about it, because you might understand that there's you understand the value of different opinions. Now, again, I don't agree with everything you said. I'm probably a little bit more like Steve in the sense that I don't pay attention to everything on Twitter. I don't really give a fuck about... I'm relatively new to the metal scene as well, like the past couple of years, so I don't know what he's done in his past apart from, like, stories and, like, mini documentaries I've seen on, like, some of the shit he's been involved with as a teen. But if I look at some of the shit I was involved with as a teen, I'd be like, you know what, it's probably better off that I wasn't extremely popular and famous in a band, because I would be in the same position right now, you know? So I think that's a credit to you, like, being able to articulate your opinion and not just getting, like, wound up in the emotions of what someone might say, you know?
I think what's really important as well is you have acknowledged that there's uncertainty. And we're currently living in a world where you're kind of not allowed to. It's like, pick a fucking side. Do you like Ronnie or not? It's like, or what if I don't have enough information and, like, I've not seen anything enough to make my mind up? He seems, you know, interesting as a character, and I don't know yet. Like, that's also fine, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because I literally posted a video today talking about that. Every so often I put up videos of me ranting or whatever, and this one was talking about, like, more like family issues that I have, where people look at stuff so black and white, and then whenever you question their belief about something, they take it so personal. You know, like, whenever I question something, I want to do harm and like that. It's just, I don't want to do harm, but there's a different way of looking at things and stuff like that. And that's just very unfortunate how, you know, the world of politics, the world of debate and stuff like that, people kind of just take, this person supports this, so therefore they're evil person or whatever. Maybe, you know, they could be supporting something and they could just be wrong about it. Not have to project, like, evil intent. So
that's literally why I actually only finished up watching your video right before the podcast, so I was kind of, like, just reminded of why I actually enjoy your channel so much. So that was why I wanted to bring that up. So that was, like, a perfect example that I didn't even think of. Just the way you're describing your predicament today. It was like, you have this problem, you're in the middle of it, and you're, like, almost too introspective and, like, thinking about too many different opinions of everyone that you kind of, like, fumble up in yourself, and you get, like, you get caught up in your own self as well. So it's very relatable as well. So I commend you for that style. I love those kind of videos, you know, because you're so used to seeing people do reactions in this style of content, and then you kind of get a more, like, human look at them as well. So I always enjoy those videos from you.
Yeah. One of the big things, like, fumbling on yourself. Like, the reason why is usually whenever you have conversations with people, you're kind of, like, sacrificing, like, what you believe against the other person's, because one could fumble over the other and stuff like that. And every time I have, like, a conversation with someone about anything, I always think potential of me being wrong, and me thinking about that in the back of my mind is very stressful, because, you know, if one thing tumbles down, then all of your foundation for what you believe is, like, totally gone. And I had that happen to me, like, a couple years ago. And every time I talk to, like, one of my family members about this or whatever, you know, that's the possibility where everything fumbles down and you have to, like, rebuild. Luckily that hasn't happened to me, but Yeah, but most people don't really have a foundation of where their beliefs come from or why. They usually just look up to their political commentator or their priest or preacher or whatever and rely on people to give them the foundation, not build it up themselves. So,
Dude,
yeah.
you're so wise. That is incredible wisdom. And to be able to see the scariness of, I might be wrong, not enough people will recognize that. You know, it might be that something that you now believe is a memory, something that someone once told you, but your brain has converted it into that's something you saw and you experienced, even though that's not actually what happened. And so you can't be sure really of anything. And if you have that understanding of yourself, it also will allow you to be more kind of forgiving and open to the other person and go like, you know what? Maybe they believe these things so fervently because of the situation they were in at the time and the experience that they had that I don't know and can't relate to. And that's an incredibly generous point of view to have in those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the person with the glasses, like actually, like that guy
Drew's
or whatever
so good at
in
that
every
one.
conversation because Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time I have, like, whenever the thing about like talking to me, at some point in our conversation, it will just go deep and deep and deeper. Eventually, what happens whenever I talk to people, and I end up looking like that guy or whatever.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse. I think you'd agree. Like I'm definitely not on your level of like open-mindedness and like introspection, but I can definitely feel how that could be like a really positive thing, but also like you can get so deep in your own head that you end up not knowing where you are at all, you know?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's one of those things where like I feel like the only person, not like, it feels weird, no one can understand me. Everyone kind of says that, but whenever you get into like philosophy and trying to like, I don't know, between like philosophical and religion type stuff, it kind of gets cold where most people are kind of like dogmatic and kind of reactive to like what they believe and stuff, and they don't really think like deeper than that. But like what I'm trying to do, like I don't know, I'm not going to go into like my whole philosophical religious background and all that type of stuff, but I need to have some kind of foundation or some kind of fact of the matter where my beliefs come from, or some kind of practice, and people think about that a whole bunch. And the only person I can talk about that is like a philosopher or a psych major or a therapist about that kind of stuff, or people who like those topics. But
how'd you learn to think like this though? Because it is super wise. Because you were talking about a background, like you're seem very mentally sound. Do you study, do you read a lot of books? Like, is there a certain way for the way that you think?
2020, I was man, should I say this? Okay, I'm going to just say it. I was very conservative Christian, and I was hate listening to a lot of different bands because they were left leaning. And then I discovered the band called Silent Planet, and it changed fucking everything. The album, Everything Was Sound, was an album that just blew me away. Like, not at first, but lyrically, like every Silent Planet song lyrically kind of goes into some kind of political topic or social issues and stuff. And whenever I see like a political or thing happening socially on the news or whatever, and I get deep into it, I would like find a song from Silent Planet that kind of gets into that topic or whatever. And like, it's funny, like whenever after like a social studies class and stuff like that, we were talking about, you know, how the Indians were treated very horribly in the U.S. And there's a song called Native Blood. And after that class, I listened to that song and kind of think about it, and it kind of takes you there, that journey historically and stuff. And that kind of happened with every song from Silent Planet. And yeah, that's the reason why that band is like my favorite of all time, because they take you in journeys if you kind of allow them to.
That's incredible. Yeah, Garrett Russell is one of the best lyricists in the scene right now, and for good reason. It's funny because you don't hear too many people. It seems like it's more from like Christian or like backgrounds or religious backgrounds where like they grow up pretty conservative and then get into a more liberal kind of leaning mentality. And I find that really, really interesting that Silent Planet was the gateway for you to expand your mind into a different kind of thing, because I can't relate to that. I've never had a band really pull me into a different direction. So I think that's a really cool thing that Silent Planet did for you.
Yeah,
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's definitely a fucking ride. It was a wild time the last 2 years. And, you know, whenever your family, most of them are very conservative and stuff, and they start to see you change and start questioning things that they've told you all this time, and it kind of separates you from them a little bit, and, you know, kind of made my life a bit difficult in many different ways, but it's made it easier for me to like communicate like how I feel and what I think about things, which has been awesome.
I can relate to some of this, my guy. I grew up in a Catholic, very Catholic family because I'm Irish, so of course. And I was Catholic for a very long time. I was at the early 20s, even. I think I was about 20 when I started going away from that. And I remember a fucking conversation I had with one of my, at the time, bandmates about, because they were really into astrology. And I was like, fucking astrology, come on. Like, there's nothing to the constellations that affect the planet in any way. It makes no sense. I was like, there's absolutely no evidence to support there's any relation to anything that's going on with astrology and any relevance in the world. And they went like, well, how is it any different with Catholicism? I went, oh, fuck. And then my brain just, because it's having that moment to go like, I might be wrong, and start going, okay, well, let me look at my foundations. What is this built on? I'm like, it's built on stories that I was told by, you know, parents and people of authority in my life, and I basically took that as, well, you know, your parents who in the same breath would be like, don't jump off that cliff, you'll hurt yourself, and then, oh, by the way, God is real, and also if you do this, you'll get, like, but all the other things turn out to be true because they've got really good guidance through your parents. So you slot in anything else that is also part of your ideal, you know, your idealism or whatever it might be, as also verified by proxy. And that's a thing that I questioned. Now, listen, not everyone, as you alluded to, Runty, as well, is going to question that or be interested in things having a strong foundation of evidence, et cetera, et cetera. And you know what? Reaching the age of 38 soon, I'm like, fine. I don't need everyone in the world to like go to the fundamentals and look at the basis of evidence. If someone wants to live a life following something that doesn't have the same evidence-based, you know, reality thing, fine. As long as it's not going to hurt anyone, whatever. You do you. You know, there's some conversations I'm not going to spend the effort having, but equally, I'm happy to entertain anyone if people are going to have that grace-given, like open-minded discourse. And that's probably what you learned in the hard times with your own family, going like, well, I can have this conversation. You can feel the friction, and it will teach you how to be calm and, you know, wise about it and considered, because then you can show them, listen, I might be having a different point of view here, but I'm not lost to the world. I still want to, you know, you're still open to them, and they'll feel that over time. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm with my parents as well. They know I'm essentially atheist at this point, but it's fine because they're like, they know I'm not going like, well, to hell with you. Like, there's none of that going on. It's just a different choice.
Yeah.
That was well said. Daddy Steve.
Well done to everyone involved. Great conversation.
I do feel like, I think beliefs though, I find it super interesting because I think you just constantly are always getting challenged with different views. And for me, I grew up Catholic too. Like my background, my mom's Mexican and they're a very Catholic country too. But to be honest, lately I have been finding Catholicism more lately. And there's been a pull in that kind of way. But I'm also like, you know, I grew up like kind of atheist too, like after falling out of church, but I am kind of like going back to it. I think just it's hard to be set in stone in certain ideologies. That's why you always have to look at nuance and everything, because like what Runty's saying, like you think about being wrong and just like there's no right answer. So for like where I'm at right now, sure, I may be finding religion again, but I don't know if this is actually who I'm going to be forever. Like I'm just constantly just going along with the journey and seeing how my beliefs and views change. And I think that's a healthy way of approaching life.
Perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. I think the inundation with like new information every single hour of every day on the internet as well is definitely a big factor in, I feel like constantly having to have an open mind when it comes to not just religion, but any like, I guess, more serious topic where, you know, you're just constantly bombarded with like the best news ever and then the worst news ever. And it's, you know, I guess this information wouldn't have been widely available to, I guess, all of our parents, where, you know, you can see on the internet like opinions from someone in like Saudi Arabia or like the other side of the world somewhere. You know, you're just going to get so many more different opinions, which I guess either forces you to completely open your mind or just completely dig your head in the sand. And that's where I guess most of us, I'd like to think we've pretty open minds when it comes to things, and I guess me personally, much the same as Steve's upbringing, being Irish as well. Like, it was never like any opinion or like moment where I was like, I'm just going to become an atheist now. But I feel like just maybe as you get a little bit older, you just kind of fall out of, you know, Catholicism or going to church and like actually practicing. Even though when I was younger, it was kind of like, go to church, you don't really have a choice. It wasn't like I was actually really practicing by my own choice. It was like just brought along to church because your parents were very Catholic, and again, they didn't maybe have access to the information that we have today. So yeah, I mean, like, I think the internet is just a huge part of that, because you can just go onto Twitter and see like the worst atrocities on planet Earth happening on the other side of the world, and like, you kind of, even just that alone has to like you have to ask yourself questions like, how, if there is a higher power, how could this be happening to, like, how could that be differentiated between why this is happening to these people? But then at the same time, you feel like there's no answer. So it's like, well, if there's no answer to this, it's like, let's just call upon something that is greater than man, you know? So it's this big, like, massive paradox all the time. That's kind of like the tug of war that goes on in my brain all the time, where it's like, well, if this is happening, there can't be a God. But at the same time, I can't look to man for a solution to this, because we're all fucking, you know, generalizing here. But, you know, humans have known to be pretty fucking shit. So it's
problematic.
Like, I guess
We're
look back
problematic.
up, you know? So, yeah, exactly. So this is a good conversation.
Well,
I'm enjoying this little conversation.
Viewers and listeners, welcome back to the Philosophy Roundup.
I know, right? Isn't this a metal podcast? Where's the metal music?
Yeah, my
Runty
God.
did his best to bring us back to metal.
That's
by
the
talking
thing.
about Silent Planet.
That's the thing that you're going to have to worry about.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you're probably going to have to worry about anytime if you want to have me on, because for some reason, my brain will find something to dig deep into.
Yeah. No,
And stuff like that. So
Yeah, Runty, what you think about the Darko US album? Oh, well, you know, with my background in religion, and just, I'm a little bit conflicted.
I was gonna try to do one of my famous. I was gonna do one of my famous segues out of there, but even I couldn't figure out a way to get out of that one. I was like, let's just wait until this dries up at some point.
Bringing the Rise at this Buddha tour. I don't know.
Yeah,
Steve's
one.
great at doing the segues.
Oh, the problem is my segue is going to do something somewhat related. We've been talking about religion and the rest. There's a religious war going on in the world. I mean, that's a terrible segue. But
oh yeah, you can't do it with that delivery. Religious war.
Like an entertainment channel. Hey guys, there's a religious war going on again. You know, who knows who's going to win this time? No. Yeah, things are spicy over there. I came back from Download Festival recently, which was a muddy fucking mess, but really good fun. Exhausting, but there was some excellent music to be had. Side note, Runty, also, I'm not into instrumental bands generally. I need a vocalist to tie it together and add that humanity. However, I saw Polyphia live at Download Festival, and it was fucking incredible. They were so good live. So Polyphia gets a pass. Other instrumentalists, less.
Because their guitars are like vocal lines. That's why. They're very...
Yeah, but also there's songwriting in it. It's not like, here's an amazing noodly bit. Here's an amazing noodly bit. There's grooves, there's flow. They songs were different between each other.
It's when the crowd actually sings the melody, right?
Yeah,
they're all... Yeah, exactly. It's because they're like vocals. Yeah. They're very smart in their songwriting. That's why Polyphia is massive.
Yeah.
Yes. Good point.
Actually, I had a good think about this the other day of like, I think it was kind of inspired a little bit by your conversation with Finn McKenty, Steve. I checked out the interview that you did with him, and he was like getting to the roots. I've kind of had this conversation with myself, like on stream sometimes, because you guys have probably felt it before, or even like Runty. I know you're not too, like, I know you don't do the Twitch thing too often, but I know from the lads and even from your own experience with checking out albums, sometimes it can be very hard to actually articulate why you do and don't like certain songs. It's like you feel that you don't like it, and you've been here before, but it's like, what is it about this? So because of the conversation that Finn and Steve had, I think it's just kind of like it's just made me more aware of trying to think about why I do or don't like. And I think one of the main things with instrumental bands that I'm like starting to hone in on is there has to be like an element of feel to it, because people have sent me like, you know, the likes of, you know, just some random instrumental band that's like the most technical stuff in the world, as are Polyphia. But I just feel like when I listen to Polyphia, for the most part, I think they generally have a level of feel to it. So whether it be just the actual, maybe it's the video aspect of it, you can like really see them get into it, but also just the way the music comes across from an audio standpoint. It's like it just you can feel the feel that they're actually putting into the actual guitars. Whereas like some things I feel like are just arpeggios and just notes for the sake of having notes. And I feel like that's what Night Versus, they have like such good song structure, and you can just feel the flow of the music so well. So I think that's one thing that I've been like really honing in on recently. It's like and again, feel is so hard to articulate as well. So it's again kind of another rabbit hole you can go down of like, well, I've somehow started to understand what it is that I like about instrumental bands, but it's feel. So how do I describe me feeling that they're feeling it? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just one thing. Yeah, I guess I tried. Yeah, but yeah,
there's a slight looseness to it. There's a slight deviation from exact programmed notes, which I think I relate to a lot as well. Is why I don't really like the sort of classic metal thing. We've got two, lead guitarists harmonizing. I'm like that. That just I don't feel the humanity within it, and maybe that's why I like groove so much. I like big choruses. I like vocals and harmonies because it's an injection of humanity. Not for some reason that's what I respond to. But then I like dance music sometimes, but I don't think I like strictly just dance music on its own. I think I need a great human vocal over the top. There's something connective that I need.
What if it builds up to the like? What if there's like a build up to that payoff, right?
You're right. It's a very good point. But that sometimes is okay. You can have a very feel-based thing that grooves it up, and then you go madness. I can deal with that because of the dynamic interest, and it's been set up in a human way, and maybe that's the difference maker.
Yeah. No, it's true. And what you were just saying about like instrumental music, it's like a dilemma that I've been having lately and realizing is that, I grew up in technical progressive metal and tech death. Like I love fast arpeggios and I got really good at guitar back in the day. But now since doing the reaction channel, I don't focus on guitar as much, instead discussing our own music. But because of it, I've noticed my appreciation for technical progressive music being less engaging. People, show me songs on Twitch that are very shreddy. I'm like, this is cool, but this is just guitar focused music. Maybe if I was really into guitar again, maybe I'd appreciate it a lot more. But now I am finding that as less musician ears and a little bit more just casual listener ears, I'm appreciating more groove and feel. But when I got really into guitar and trying to be the best guitarist ever back when I was a kid, like I really loved the arpeggios, and you could argue there's feel in that too. There's feel in being technical and just trying to figure out every note. You can make that argument, even though there's definitely more feel in a blues solo or something.
Yeah, it's so subjective as well, isn't it? It's like, what is feel? Because you could listen to something that is just full of arpeggios and like just no, like one after the other, and you could find some love in that. But I don't know. I think the feel, and again, this is where I'll have to like, because I'm saying this now, and I guess the discussion or the reasoning behind why I actually enjoy it is I'm kind of only at the tip of the iceberg again. It's like, okay, I think it's feel, but like, what is it that's giving this feel? It's like, why is it full of feel to me? So I have to
it's going to be a lifetime of discovery.
Yeah, for sure.
And your taste will change over time as well. What you really like now is not going to be what you like in 10 years. That core thing that feeds you. And I think what might help us get closer to this is find two bands that are similar, actually, if you'd be objective about it. One of them you like and one of them you don't. Try and figure out why. Because I love like pop punk bands like Blink-182 and Green Day and Sum 41 and Bowling for Soup. They're on my mind because I saw them at Download. But I didn't like Good Charlotte. But Good Charlotte are kind of the same thing. Why don't I like them, but I like the other ones? I don't know. Some of it is in how they present themselves. And maybe I'm like, I don't really relate to them. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. It's tricky.
It can also be first impressions are a huge reason as to why you end up going ahead and enjoying something. Like for example, like Thornhill, like when I first started to hear, like when I heard the Dark Pill for the first time, like when I listened to that album again, I'm not massively like entertained by it anymore, but I still hold that album so dearly. And it's again like trying to like nudge me off of that idea of this album being fantastic is something that would be quite hard to do because of the first impressions that I had with it. It's the same as like a lot of the earlier metalcore albums that I got into. I can now like look back on it and like objectively say, okay, it wasn't the most impressive thing in the world based on what I've heard from that point onwards, but because of that like first impression, it's like, even though another band might come along and do it the exact same way or do something so similar, it's because I've had that first impression and it's like that, nostalgia feel or like that, more deeper cut to you. That's why you can end up being. So I guess to your point, Steve, it's like, why is this band doing very, very similar stuff, but I like this band and not like this band? Sometimes I've found that for me, that's sometimes a big reason. It's like the like nostalgia factor or like, that first time factor.
It is very hard to describe. And I just thought of like the perfect comparison for me is like Polyphia or Intervals. they're both instrumental guitar focused bands, but why do I love Polyphia so much more? And I think it's just what you were saying, Drew, is like it's the feel. But like I think to like explain it, you have to go into how it makes you feel. Like, why do you feel this way? Maybe you can like actually like you can move, you can hum the melody. Maybe there's that kind of feel where with intervals it's more just arpeggio runs and it doesn't make you feel as much. So maybe that just when you feel something, maybe describe the how and the why kind of thing.
I love Finn's point is like you might start getting to the point where you think you've got something, but then ask another why. Like if you're saying you really like the fact you can hum it, you can hum the melody. Why is that important? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of music that I love where they have a very good foundation where I feel like you can kind of change it up or switch stuff up like in a live set that will still sound very similar to the original song, but it sounds newer. And I think the reason why I love vocals that so much is because whenever you listen to vocalists sing live or scream live the same song, they kind of switch things up, which I really love. And like the band, one of my favorite bands ever is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And you know, you listen to their studio albums and they sound great. I love them. But whenever you listen to this band play their studio stuff live and they improvise, change up guitar solos, adding little licks every so often with the same riffs and stuff like that, and the chemistry between that band, it sounds so good. And it makes me want to listen to their live stuff more than their in studio. And then whenever I play guitar, I ended up playing what they're playing live instead of like what they're playing in studio. I think the feel of like space, of like being a bit more innovative with yourself, like both vocally or even guitar wise, I think that's very fun to do. But I don't think you really see a lot of that like instrumentally wise in metal music, because there's a lot of like precise things that you need to get precise and right, because it wouldn't sound very nice. But I think vocally, I think the vocalist has a lot of room to be able to do a whole bunch of different stuff.
I think you've hit onto something brilliant there that makes sense to me, because it's much harder to exactly recreate a vocal live than it is exactly to recreate a guitar sound that sounds similar to on record. And there's been times when I've seen a band be really impressive, like the Killers I saw play Reading Festival many, many years ago. And I didn't really like it. Not because they didn't perform brilliant. They performed exceptionally. They were so good, it sounded just like the album, even the vocals. It was unbelievable. But it felt like it wasn't live, even though it was, because I was like, I could just listen to this on an album at home, just loud, and it would feel the same thing. I didn't gain anything new from the live performance because the vocals were so exact. So I kind of need a bit of that roughness, a bit of that kind of variation. Again, I think for me, it's that ever-present reminder there's a human aspect to this, which is a little bit off-kilter. I think I like.
I think that's the problem with a lot of metal music, that it is a little bit robotic, where you can go to something like rock, right? Or we're talking about Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Killers. It's a lot more organic, and that gives them room to improvise. And in the same case with jazz. Jazz is all about improvising and like playing off each other. So I love metal for the precision, but you're absolutely right. You see that live, they barely like will take time out of their set to just go off and do random solos. They will sometimes, like, right? Like Guns N' Roses have done it. Like, but like, I mean, like, you know, modern metal bands are all about precision and robotic, especially with like computer drums. And I heard a band yesterday and everything was digital except for the vocals. The guitars were digital, the bass, the drums, it was all digital.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
Yeah, it's crazy, but you know, bedroom musicians are blowing up. You don't even need labels as well. You still do, but you know, they're becoming less important.
And you know what? Someone else will love the fact that they're exact and robotic and digitally done. Like, this is fucking fine. So, you know, it's a matter of taste at times.
Music is so incredibly subjective. Man, I picked a great job, because like I can't be wrong about anything. I can't be right about everything, but I can't be wrong about anything either.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You guys, I want to touch on the Twitch thing. If you guys don't have anything in particular. I don't know if it's like too relative. It's the new DJ thing that's come in. I know we kind of briefly spoke about it, but I think again it could just be weirdly problematic for people down the line at some point. Anyone else have anything to add to that one?
Well, people listening or watching have no idea what we're just talking about. Before I terribly segue into this one once again.
But some context for the listeners.
Yeah, no, I'll give it. So basically, as Twitch, just another thing that kind of, maybe this would have been a better segue earlier on, but we're here now. The
It's
Twitch, we obviously we do a lot of music reactions on Twitch, and we give our opinions. Basically, just like a lot of the time, taking the content that we do on Twitch and posting it on YouTube. So we're doing our intros and our talking sections over it, but Twitch have brought in, or are bringing in, a new thing which doesn't directly affect us at the moment, but again, it just kind of worries me that in a year's time or 2 years' time, where are we going to go with the whole copyright thing with music and the fair usage of music across the board? Is it going to get a lot tighter? Because I know with Twitch, if you guys remember back during the pandemic, there was like a lot more stringent rules when it came to like DMCA strikes, and even the big streamers that like were streaming to like 50,000-60,000 people would have like a Drake song or just some really popular artists playing in the background whilst they go and make their lunch, and they're just playing music to 50,000-60,000 people, and that was that. Now in some cases these creators had like conversations with the labels and they were allowed to do it, but for the most part it was just the Wild West, not the way YouTube has been, where you can get your channel taken down for copyright, as I've already discussed. But basically, Twitch have specifically brought out a new thing with like DJs. So there's a lot of DJs that play on Twitch that, this isn't verbatim, but basically they're going to clamp down on DJs who are streaming them doing live sets. Now, obviously, the difference between that and us right now is that for the most part, DJs will just be playing and mixing live, the music that they don't own the rights to. So they're just playing the song, mixing it into the next one. And Twitch are now gonna basically say they're kind of working with the DJs. They're not like just saying you can't do this anymore, but they're saying we're now gonna have a new category on Twitch where you can basically, the labels or the artists will be able to get a percentage of your streams. So instantly, anyone who might be particular, earning a living from DJing on Twitch will have a portion of their earnings. Now, where that worries me is to what we do. Obviously, we jump on Twitch and we might spend a couple hours listening to music, whether it be reacting or just the intro to our stream, creating like an ambience or a vibe where we put on a song at the start of our streams, just to get people pumped up, or just, if there's a new album coming out, we play a song from a band. Where it just kind of worries me. And I don't know, maybe you guys might have some thoughts on it. I don't know if you've delved too deep into it, but the rule kind of suggests that at the moment, it's only for DJs who are like mixing pre-recorded music that they do not own the rights to. But I think Twitch in the past have like dabbled in that, like taking channels down. And, it feels like maybe we could go down this path of like DMCA stuff again, where it could get a lot more serious. Where if you look at my YouTube channel being demonetized and then the Twitch thing coming in, it's like, is this a worrying time to be in the reaction space? Or am I being dramatic? Or any thoughts?
I do have thoughts. And
Okay.
So with the Twitch thing with the DJs, I get their point. It's the same thing in the rest of the world, right? If you're playing music in shopping malls, for example, you need a license to do that. And you might have that license with a company that can provide a bunch of music that you can then play so that the artists end up getting the right royalties paid to them. So it's kind of an understandable use of copywritten music material. And yeah, we're at a bit of a digital age where they're still figuring out how all that works. And I can see the point where if you're DJing, you're essentially playing music back to back like a radio station would, radio stations would need to pay license amounts for the music, and that would end up getting royalty to go to the labels, the artists, the rest. It all makes sense, all gets paid. And it makes sense for that to exist in the Twitch world. The problem is we're not used to having to pay in that world because it's kind of a new Wild West it's been in. And so what Twitch are doing essentially is they're saying we're bringing in this new thing, and they are going to subsidize for the first year for DJs that are on Twitch to not have to pay, I think, and the licensing will be all sorted out between Twitch and the various labels and partners and publishers and the rest. After a while, that will change, and I think the DJ channels will need to pay some kind of a subscription or a fee or something in order to ensure that they can use perhaps certain discographies or catalogs. I'm assuming that's how that's going to go, because otherwise I don't know how they're going to figure out what's been played to who and how much and the rest. Now, whether they can figure out a system where it comes out of the Twitch streamers' fees that they receive from subscriptions and the rest, so maybe they don't have to actively pay, who knows? But I can understand a world in which we would need to do things like that as well if we're using background music to create ambience, because the original critics would argue you're using my content to create ambience. It's not really the same thing as criticism or review or fair use. I think there'd be a different situation for when we are doing reaction content, but music around that will be difficult if it's anyway copywritten music. It's a different purpose. Now, perhaps, ideally, because we're in the early stages here, maybe we can work with labels and they can whitelist certain catalogs for us if they like what we're doing, like our reactions, want to play and promote certain songs and artists. And maybe there's a way that Twitch could figure out a system that works in a white labeling world. That'd be ideal. Be very complicated to put together, and maybe they're trying to figure that out. But I can see it from both sides a little bit there. And there's definitely an inevitability to a tug of war of people going, oh, we could make more money off of this, as you see large labels doing with our reaction channel stuff. And then they might blanket block a bunch of things. And then they realize, oh, we're not getting much promo from that. And then they'll walk it back. We're going to do this for a bit, I think.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think you guys both elaborate on it really well. I just feel like, you know, if they are going to subsidize and take a fee and take some of the money out of the revenue that you get from Twitch live streams, then go for it. You don't even make a lot. So like you make chump change. So like, to me, it's just like, it's kind of like it is what it is. What I'm concerned with is if they take your Twitch stream down or your channel down and strike you out like YouTube, then that's problematic. But if they want to take some of the money out of the revenue, then yeah, by all means. Like, you don't even make a lot of money from it.
But I think the risk here is it will not likely be a percentage from what you earn. If what you earn is so little that the percentage doesn't meet the required license amount, you would need to pay. So your use of Twitch to use music in the background will cost you money if you're not earning enough from your subs, etc., etc.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's problematic. But maybe, you know, you get to a point where, like, you know, luckily I'm in a position on YouTube where I have relationships with labels. So with Twitch, hopefully that could be the same thing where, like, you know, I'm not going to feature your bands because we have to pay this fee that we, you know, it's costing money out of our pocket. There's no ROI in that. So like, you know, then you work with labels that want to like actually work with you. And then, well, I just want to say
but entry level channels, new people trying Twitch and doing reactions, they will be fucked and not able to do that unless they spend money, which is a shame.
That's really true. Yeah. There could be a way to, how do they get around beginner channels trying to get in?
But also, if, I guess, from what you were saying, Burb, like if you're just saying, like, whatever, I guess, accepts the revenue split, is that not the same as, I guess, accepting that? Because if you accept that, like, oh, Twitch are going to take a percentage of regardless of whether or not, and again, this is more just like a principle thing, again, like it is with my situation with YouTube, to be honest, because the money isn't great from ad revenue anyway from my end. So it's more of a principle thing as to, like, here's your rules that you've given me and I'm following these rules. So I guess it's different if you're just talking about, like, you know, your intro to the stream where you have a song playing. Like, if that's going to be a reason as to why you lose a percentage of your income on Twitch, again, regardless of how much it is. But if you're abiding to the rules of, like, fair use, where you're talking over, like you're doing on YouTube with your Twitch streams, you know, why does the rule differ for Twitch? You know, as in, like, just roll over and allow them to take the percentage. Whereas with YouTube, you would fight that battle because you're transforming the content. You know what I mean? Unless you're specifically saying that, look, if I'm playing music at the start of the stream and I'm not transforming it, then that's fair enough. But the problem with this is, like Steve says, it's very hard to. The problem I see is it's very hard to, like, what's the word I'm looking for? To monitor, I guess.
Validate.
Because I could play, I could play 10 minutes at the start of my stream of, like, 2 Tesseract songs, and Twitch might flag that stream, and even though, like, 4 hours of me, like, maybe, like, reacting to music or reviewing music where I'm transforming it under whatever guidelines they've set on Twitch, are they going to take all of the revenue from, like, or a percentage of your entire purse after the end of the month? Because you know yourself, you could have, like, a decent month on Twitch where now all of a sudden they're taking a percentage of your entire monthly earnings because you're playing 10 minutes at the start of a stream. It's you know, it's where do you draw the line there, I think.
Yeah, that's probably why at the moment it's only a DJ channel only thing, because that is a predictable quantity and purpose of music. But you're right. Like, if you play 2 Tesseract songs at the start, then you're using that to as audio only to create atmosphere. That's not the same thing as critical review and criticism of that music. So that should have some money going in theory to the copyright owners for royalties, etc. But it doesn't allow for the nuance of later on, if you're then commenting over a Tesseract song, maybe that particular song royalties wouldn't apply because it's fair use. So how the fuck they would figure out how to automate the understanding of what's happening in the content is probably why there isn't a model for this yet for what we do.
Well, even when they do a model, like it's still going to be very finicky. Hence the YouTube algorithm is just fucking torture.
Yeah. Fun times ahead.
Definitely.
It's funny listening to this because like I do this for fun. You guys do it for a job.
I don't do this full time. I do this.
You don't?
Which is also why I have very little editing as well. I do it for the efficiency. I use OBS to zoom in and out and have things whiz in, and so that I kind of edit live in one go. But I don't have time for all that. Yeah. But I'm interested one day in making this something that I can pivot over to. But currently it is for the funsies.
Yeah, and even at that, it's just like it's still again like obviously it is my job, but the actual things I'm talking about at the moment are like the smallest portion of my income. So it's kind of like more about principle. That's the main reason I kind of get passionate about it, because it's like the rules seem to be all over the place. For a company so large, it's like, how are your rules not more? And like, especially if my sole income was YouTube, I'd literally be fucked. You know what I mean? It's like, and you can't do anything. It's not like you can go to HR with YouTube. It's like you are just another person that's like, okay, well, look, you've denied my claim, which I feel like has been very reasonable. Here's 3 months to wait. So if that is like my entire income, you're completely like, if I'm paying rent in somewhere that's reflective of what I'm earning from YouTube directly, it's like, Jesus, you know, that's what I mean. Like, I'm in a lucky position where it's not that big of a deal. It's just purely principle. So yeah, but that's kind of why it's on my mind with Twitch as well. I'm like, where could this go? You know, is it going to get really Wild West out here, or?
Well, it is like the Wild West right now. But like, speaking of principle, like that's why I kind of said like if they want to take some revenue, then I totally understand, because copyright is still a gray area. Even with YouTube, like Steve has mentioned before, if we had like a split sharing revenue with labels, that would actually make sense for them too. So I'm all for the label and band getting encouraged to get revenue too while we use their content, just like a fair, even system. And right now I do feel like the YouTube reactors with working with copyright, I think it is fair for the copyright to be removed, because it's not even a lot of money, so it just helps. It creates incentive, and if Twitch does the same thing, that'd be cool. But like, well, I don't know if cool is the right word, but it is what it is. Like but it's not like I'm going to like bow down to it, but it's more like I understand why the copyright holders will do this approach. Now, is it going to work? Probably not, because it seems way too convoluted and confusing. But we'll see. And if again, it's when they start taking videos down, blocking content, and trying to like take down your channel, that's when it's really bad. But if they want to take some revenue, then they're fair to do that. It's their content.
Yeah, I think I thought of the word you're looking for, Drew. We're at the crest of the wave of these things. We're pioneers. So hopefully us and other channels and other channels can be part of the conversations, or figuring things out with labels and Twitch, and find something that makes sense, that works for everyone involved, with everyone understanding the input and the realities of everyone's interests and bits and pieces. It'd be great to help shape that in future.
For sure.
But who knows if they'll invite us to the fucking table? We'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure there's more that we can talk about besides copyright. We can get some
stuff.
Well, we can give some the listeners, maybe they're bored, like no more copyright. Let's get into some music drama. So there's been a few things happening. I think Steve, you were ready to touch on it with the war.
Yeah, well, so at Download Festival that I just went to recently, there was some stuff in the lead up to it where some bands were pulling out of the festival. They were not going to perform because of the sponsorship of the festival by Barclaycard, which I'm not sure is an international thing, if that's known in the North America or not. But yeah, so it's not unusual for massive companies, Carlsberg, etc., or banks like Barclaycard to sponsor events for promotional associations with positive things. And someone somewhere was digging into what Barclaycard are also investing in. And as with lots of banks, there's investments into things like weaponry at times. So some bands pulled out on the moral principle that they did not want to be part of an event where the sponsor also had ties to essentially, I think, weaponry investment, specifically for the Israel side of the Gaza war and kerfuffle that's going on. Right, I've used the word kerfuffle terribly there. That is massively underselling.
I wasn't going to say anything,
what's going on over there. That horrible, tragic thing that's happening in the world that we obviously wish was not happening. So bands were pulling out of that, and it was a really interesting discussion at times because it was really small bands pulling out that actually. It's not like them not playing is affecting, or they just lead up. It's like them not playing is not going to be on Barclaycard's conscience. Who fucking cares? They've already got the goodwill and sponsorship. People already know that they're associated with the festival. They would have known when they signed up to do the festival that Barclaycard were a sponsor, and they could have done the research then and just not committed to it. So to do that right at the last minute just feels like a bit of a strong, like, okay, well maybe they're doing that on purpose to make this big storm. In a political sense, I can understand that. But like, really, the fans are the ones getting banged because they're going to the festival. They've already bought their tickets. They're fucking going, and their bands are not playing. It's like, that sucks. So that was a frustrating thing for anyone who was fans of those bands. Happily for myself, I wasn't into any of them. They were all not for me. But it was an interesting perspective. And Ronnie Radke kind of went off on them a little bit as well from his perspective. It's just like, essentially, you're like, a couple of the bands were pulling out on those moralistic reasons, but then they were also doing Taco Bell commercials with their music, and or a collaboration with Nike, who also have some difficult political decisions they've made in the past. And it's a question of how much down each rabbit hole do you want to go, because everything, if you go back to anything that's in a capitalist society, there's going to be some difficulties with absolutely everything. Did you write your messages of resignation from the festival on an iPhone? Well, because guess what? Like, that's not a great, moralistic device to use necessarily, all the things that happen in those factories. So it's very difficult and complex. And I wonder if it might be better for bands to go to the festival. You've already signed up to do it. And some bands would give all of their fees to aid, refugee, etc., whatever it is, to help, with aid with the war, so they could go, they could perform, they could make political statements through the microphone to a large audience. Was the point of a festival, make their points of view heard in a human way, or have banners and flags and things that you could then go viral online, as well as play the music for your fans and have your art form matter in that way, and donate your fee and make I think a larger, grander statement than the initial kind of knee-jerk thing. What's really interesting, though, is Barclaycard did pull their sponsorship, which I did not see coming. Midway through the festival, this happened on the Friday, I think, and for 2 other festivals later on. Now, they're still in a 5-year contract with, I think it's, these festivals. So it only affects this year. They might be back next year if the war calms down, and I wonder if that's going to matter to people or not. But it was a strange, politically charged thing going into that particular festival. Did you guys have any takes on that story? Did you see that when it was breaking online?
Well, the fact that they pulled out of it too might have, maybe they're getting enough publicity that, any publicity is good publicity too, in a weird fucked up kind of way too. But you were saying that it screws over the concert goers too. But from the reception that I'm seeing online, people seem to be really favorable. Yeah, we won. It's very punk rock what happened, that they're staying up against the oppressor a little bit too, and they actually won. So that's what I've been seeing online. Radke did put out a very controversial take that was basically you do know that the people who support this are also supporting a country that is pretty anti-LGBTQ, and which is what these people tend to support. So it was just it is a very, very tough situation, to be honest, when it comes to all the stuff that's happening in Gaza Strip. I stay out of it. I've had people comment or DM me hey, Burb, I would love to have your opinion. You have a platform, talk about it. I'm look, the whole war going on, it has been going on for decades. It's so confusing. I'm not educated in the slightest to talk about this stuff. Basically, war, it's fucked up. That's the most basic terms. To me, I think it is cool, to sum up my opinion on this. I think it's cool that these bands were able to fight the oppressor, and actually it is kind of punk rock. That's basically the mentality of the music. Has always been anti-establishment, and it's kind of cool that it did happen. Now, the nuance of everything that is going on with the war, I don't know, just the idea that they fought for what they believe in and kind of won in that regard is actually very respectable kind of thing. But again, the nuance of the war, like I'm not going to get into it. But
we have nothing politically to offer.
Yeah, we're music reactors. I watch music videos for a living.
But I got nothing on
Runty.
No, there's too much. I thought about going into that rabbit hole, but like I don't have the time for it. I don't like I love like the psychology and philosophy stuff, but whenever you get into like the history stuff, and that's like watching videos and people debating about it, it's too much. I can't do it. But but I think it's cool, people sticking up to, their principles and fighting against what they think is wrong. And it's kind of funny. It kind of reminds me of the whole controversy with Silent Planet trying to fund Palestinian children to help their living condition and stuff like that. And people were also saying like Palestinians or the whole Middle East is like homophobic and all this type of stuff. And also you're helping Palestinian children, but not Israeli. So you hate Israel. And it became like a whole shit stir that whole entire time. And just no matter what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I stay away from that conversation. It is way too politically charged. It's too divisive. There's too much nuance and everything that's happening with both sides that it's so hard to have an actual proper opinion. And I feel like listeners will probably like disagree that you can take a stand on certain things, but I think just war is ugly. War is ugly. And like I don't want to segue, but the next thing I want to talk about is also with David, forget his last name but Disturbed.
Draymond.
Draymond, he wrote on a missile, fuck Hamas. And like he's getting a lot of backlash for that. And to me, I think personally, come on, dude, you're inciting violence, you're inciting war. That's a bomb that's going to be dropped on civilians. Like I don't think that's as passionate as you are. I think you're blinded by hate.
I don't think it even matters if it's civilians or not. That bomb is meant to kill people. Like I don't think that's tasteful any, like even the people, these people that, Hamas killing people and all this type of stuff and doing evil things. Like these people also have families, children. And there's no, what's the word? Humanizing these people. Yeah. Humanity and stuff like that. It's very bad fucking taste in my opinion.
It was not a good look, I'd say.
True.
This is the first time I'm going to bow out. I have nothing to say. I haven't really kept up with the whole back and forth, the conflict. It's obviously disgusting, like some of the shit I've seen, and part of the reason why I stay off X half of the time. For that and many other reasons. But like I just don't feel the need to insert myself into it. I don't know enough. I'm not educated enough about the history. It's like one of you guys. I don't know who I think is Burb. It's been going on for decades. There's a fucking huge history behind it, and I think it's easy to get sucked into one narrative. You can see your feed can be filled with, this is the absolute definitive right answer to this situation, and it can be very easy to get sucked into that. And without actually researching yourself, it can be very hard to actually have an informed opinion unless you're actually doing the groundwork, which a lot of people aren't willing to do. They'll just see headlines and they'll say, oh, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. So there's just, again, like you guys have touched on, so much nuance to it, and I have nothing to add to the situation. Again, I watch videos for a living.
Perhaps we can round off the episode here by tying it closely back to what is a kind of a music related discussion with it. Because whether it's that, war situation or anything else about the individuals and their points of view who make music that you like, how do you balance your enjoyment of the art form, irrespective of the person behind it, whether you don't like their personality or the things they say online or whatever it is? How do you see that balance yourselves of your enjoyment of the music? And are there times when you're able to separate it and enjoy the music for what it is, or are there other times when you think, no, I'm not going to listen to that band for the reasons I don't like that individual, whatever it is?
That's such a hard question, because that's kind of like the whole thing that I've been going through, Dance Gavin Dance, like getting into like Issues and a whole bunch of different like more controversial bands. And whenever like the conflict is like currently going on and stuff like that, and there's still some kind of uncertainty there, especially with the whole Dance Gavin Dance situation. Like, there's so much that we don't know about what the band is going through and all this type of stuff. Even Andrew Wells was on a podcast talking about like the situation, not in total detail, but kind of giving, nuance, because everyone was complaining about them going on tour with Falling in Reverse, and he was like talking about how like Will Swan has a kid, John Mess got married, and they haven't toured in quite a bit, and he didn't say that this is like the only tour they could have gotten, but whenever you're touring with Falling in Reverse, there's a lot of revenue there, and there's a lot of whenever I think they even tried recording an album with Tilly, and it ended up not working out, and all that time is wasted, and now they have to catch up on like finance and all this type of stuff. And but when it comes to like all these like allegations and all this type of stuff, there's a lot of nuance that people aren't going to ever hear, so yeah.
I think with
Very
allegations too, the problem is like it's proven guilty anytime you have allegation now, and there's a lot of like artists lately where the allegations have been false, and it just ruins their reputation. So when it comes to bands getting allegations, I take it with a grain of salt. Of course, should always be in the victim's side, but it's so easy to take down musicians lately. So that's why when I review music and artists, like if we're talking about separating the art from the artist, well, if it's based off opinions and like someone has opinions that differ from mine, like, to me, whatever, like I'm still going to listen to the music, because like I still love like one of the most left-leaning bands, Straight from the Path. They're talking about like defund the police and stuff, and which I don't necessarily agree with, but I still love it. I'm like, yeah, like I love like throwing down to it, because I love that they're so passionate about it. And then I can listen to like bands on the other side too. To me, there's just nuance in like a lot of the opinions. So, but when it's allegations, it does get a little bit tricky, so I do go into with like I still listen to it until they're actually proven guilty. But then there's one band that I'm very conflicted about, and that's As Lay Dying. So As Lay Dying, I recently reviewed the song Burden, and when it comes to Tim, I'm a little bit conflicted about Tim. He did an evil act. There's no allegations. He's proven guilty. It's not a matter of opinion and difference of opinion. He tried to kill his wife. It's fucked up. How can you respect someone who tried to do something like that? Yeah. So, and he got proven guilty. So like, and then the thing is, he comes back, second chance, forgiveness. He's going on podcasts, really trying to change himself as a person. Okay, I can respect that. But then all the members of As Lay Dying, remain members, left. So now he's just like got a whole bunch of new members. So that shows a lot to his character. That means the band can't even work with him as much. So I'm very conflicted about Tim. But then I talk to people, musicians, I'm not going to name names, but I've talked to people where they say Tim is a really great guy. He's a great guy. And like, so I'm very conflicted on him. But I still listen to the song Burden, and Burden was a fucking banger. Like the song was really good. But I'm not going to lie and say like, oh yeah, go like right on, Tim. I'm very conflicted about my feelings with him, because again, it's an actual guilty charge, something that is actually like to me evil, and it's not opinions or allegations.
I think you put that extremely well. Drew, do you have anything?
I guess everyone's like moral compass is going to be different for situations, but like there's just certain things that I think everyone will agree on. Like the Lost Prophets guy, was it Ian Watkins? I feel like there's just certain things that everyone will just wholeheartedly agree on that no. But I think everything like kind of Burb alluded to is like there has to be a level of forgiveness to certain acts as well. If people have like done a crime, they've been proven guilty, and they've gone through the rehabilitation process of going through prison or whatever, it's like, are they doing their time, and should they be allowed back into society? Like, because they're already being punished enough. Now, again, I'm not talking about any particular situation at all. I just mean in general.
There's levels, different things.
There's levels, yeah. I mean, like, if you've done a certain thing, should you just be completely, like, thrown to the wayside forever, even after you've done your lengthy prison sentence that you've been given? And again, it's just every situation has to be taken so individually, Like, I mean, it's hard to even comment on, like, do I agree that people should be given a second chance or not? Again, there's so much gray area. So Where do we even start with this one? Who was the initial artist?
Oh, it wasn't about initial
Oh, it
artists.
was Disturbed. Yeah, I mean, that one just like...
Yeah, Disturbed.
Me personally, I mean, again, that can come down to like someone's opinion of the war, but I feel like regardless of what side that bomb was meant for, not to bring it back into this, I feel like that's just a scummy... Like, I feel like I look at him and I could never separate the art from the artist at that point anymore. Like, I couldn't listen to a Disturbed... Like, I just wouldn't feel the same way about it anymore because he's just a piece of shit, you know what I mean? It's just so... Like, inserting yourself into something that's just so unnecessary that you know is going to kill thousands of hundreds of people, you know. It's just like, why are you inserting yourself in, you know? So yeah.
I think there's a part of me where like there's certain bands where the lead singer's lyrical content really hit and the kind of puts down like principles and what they kind of believe. And there's certain bands where, you know, like Idol, Silent Planet, even like any of Maynard James Keenan's stuff from Tool, A Perfect Circle. And there's a lot of bands where like lyrically, like you get the person or whatever. But like if any of those people do very bad shit or whatever, that would fuck me up internally. And there's some bands where like, for example, like Issues, Dance Gavin Dance, where, you know, the lyrical content isn't really what I'm there for. And even if like with the whole situation with like Issues or whatever, I'm going to say Issues, for example, like he admitted what he did wrong and like the shit is fucked up, but the lyrics has like nothing to do with like anything close to what he did or his personality. So it's easier for me to like listen to Issues like for myself and not think about the people that are making it, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I think what it speaks to as well is it's going to be based on your own personal experience, your own personal relationship with the music and what it means to you and why, and whether, you know, anything untoward that's related to the individuals in the band does rub friction with your own, you know, personal morality and because everyone's going to have a different kind of spin on things. So yeah, I think you're going to struggle. I think you're going to struggle to get large consensus on most things across the board on what everyone thinks. And I think the effort that some people will take online to try and get everyone to agree with their cancellation of a person, whatever it is, just seems like a lot of effort that's maybe not that useful. I'd say, you know, go by your own moral compass and enjoy music in the way that you can and the things that matter to you and fulfill you with joy based on the music and the people involved. I think that's probably the most sensible approach.
I agree.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about a lot of controversial things, but there's actually one more topic that I'd definitely like to talk about. I know that we're already at 1 hour and 36 minutes, but you know, this is getting some news too, but you know, we keep talking about him because he gives us so much content, but Ronnie Radke yet again, he's getting sued.
He's suing.
I mean, Anthony Fantano. And, you know, at first it seems like, okay, he's just kind of like joking around but like, no, it's serious. And he keeps tagging at the needle drop on X and just basically like, check your emails. Oh, I know where you live and stuff.
I was hoping you'd tease this like he's suing a reaction channel and Runty, it's yours. No.
True. He went after another YouTube channel that was basically like kind of like using him as a thumbnail and like evil musicians. And he's like, I don't care anymore. I'm taking everyone down. Like, I just don't care anymore. And now I don't agree with him taking down a smaller YouTube channel. I'm like, come on, man. Like, but like the Anthony Fantano thing, I think is actually worth talking about because like, Anthony Fantano has made several videos where like, this guy sucks. This song sucks. And it's the worst picture of Ronnie Radke. And to me, they come across as like hit pieces. They really seem like just taking him down. And one of the main talking points that Anthony Fantano does have is basically like, you know, he's charged on sexual assault. But then with Ronnie Radke, he basically kind of goes off and says like he disproves it and says like he immediately went to the police, you know, they did a DNA check and everything, and he was like extremely intimidated. Yeah, and then you know, but then the rumor of it being out there is so public that people use that against them all the time, and like you can't blame the guy for defending himself, especially over a charge like that. So you kind of understand. So like I understand Ronnie wanting to, you know, take down these videos and suing Anthony Fantano. And like the thing is, Anthony Fantano, he has the mentality of doubling down. He's like, all right, lawyer up. So there is an actual,
God.
yeah, and
get the popcorn.
yeah, and you know what? I'll give my 2 cents about Anthony Fantano a little bit. I've made it public on Twitter that I respect him, but I don't trust his metal reviews because I feel like, I think I mentioned this on a podcast with you guys before, but he reviews everything. And to me, I use the an analogy that like it's a mechanic where, you know, if you drive a Mercedes or a BMW, you want to take it to a German shop and not instead a mechanic that works on all the cars. So where I'm getting at is with Anthony Fantano, he reviews all the genres. And because of it, he's a little bit out of touch when it comes to metal and rock. He seems, you know, he was calling one of the Architects' new albums like gent. I'm like, it's not really a genty record. Like, what are you talking about? And then he just like shits on the albums. He gives Sleep Token 3 or 2 and then Bring the Horizon 3. I'm just like, and then my community always shares like, oh, you see Anthony Fantano gave Knock Loose a 6. And I'm just like, this guy is like, he's not what we want in the metal and rock world. He tends to be, he's like, you know, you can argue that he's trying to make it better through his constructive criticism, but a lot of his reviews come across as more just contrarian, I feel like, just for the sake of being a contrarian a lot, especially the Sleep Token review. And you can argue that for sure, but I just to me, he's not really a champion of metal and rock. And then you have Falling Reverse, who again, it's controversial, especially on Twitter and Reddit, but you know, he's helping put rock and metal into the masses too. So lately, you know, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit team Ronnie with this whole lawyer stuff happening, like, because they are definitely hit pieces. Those videos are hit pieces to take down his character and his music.
Yeah, I would say the couple of things. I agree with the sentiments you said about things there. But I don't think they can relate to each other. I think it's fine if he wants to review music that's all over the shop, and if whatever his take is fine. It's his take. I think that's a different point. But we might not appreciate his takes in the same way because of our own insights into the metal and rock world. Fine. But I don't know that that's related to him using this large platform to do essentially like the hit pieces. I think that's a different thing entirely, because he's basically going like, well, you know, Ronnie was accused of these things. Like, it was thrown out, but like, essentially where there's smoke. And it's like, but that with that larger platform, and as you alluded to, Burb, like that stuff, that stuff will go around the world faster than facts will get their shoelaces tied. Mm-hmm. And that is what Ronnie is kind of upset about. I think that's a fair enough point. That's a different thing, I think, to where someone like Fantano's maybe overstepped the mark. And it's something to be careful of if you are going to be saying things online without basis of fact to back up what you're saying. Then you're at risk of someone, especially someone who has money and power and interest like Ronnie, to sue you. Like, you might need to be a bit more careful of those things. And only try, and as we do with our reviews, to be fair and factual about things where possible, and then we're probably in a safer position.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly, again, I feel like that's the theme of these podcasts a lot of the times. I'm not too tuned into what the fuck is going on with these, like, back and forth beefs, but, like, just from a very, like, general viewpoint or, like, not understanding of like gloating about bankrupting people, but like I think if you're as outspoken as Ronnie and you troll as frequently and as often, and it's such a big part of your marketing strategy as it is for him to, now again, I don't know exactly what Fantano said about him, and I know Ronnie's got like such a back catalogue of things that people have brought up in videos that I've seen about him before, whether it be like the like murder thing that he was involved with. Again, I don't know the details, but there seems to be so many things that people always touch on when they're hating on him. True or not, I think if you are, and again, I don't know exactly what he's trying to sue him for, but if you are as outspoken as him and you're talking so much shit, you have to be prepared for hit pieces to come up. You know, now obviously the situation is different if the information that is being brought up about him is complete bullshit and is like defamation. Then I'm a little bit more on board with like following the legal side of things to take a video down, but I just never really liked the idea of like gloating about like bankrupting someone or like going out of your way to make sure that like someone's, you know, completely broke or whatever. It was kind of like similar. I think we like briefly spoke about it before with like Logan Paul and Dylan.
Thing. He could have asked the video to be taken down though. He's done that several times where he's DM'd the person to take the video down and then they don't, and then that's when he does it publicly.
Yeah. I think that's happened in this case.
Yeah, true. Like, I mean, I'm all for, like, I mean, I just think the idea of, if you're going to go with the legal side of things, I get, like, their whole spat has been public, so it's kind of out there at this point. Why not just keep it going there? But, like, there's just something that rubs me the wrong way about someone who's outspoken as him getting.
You can argue Anthony Fantano is very outspoken, though, too. He's just on the polar opposite.
True, for sure. But I mean, Anthony Fantano isn't the one going ahead with the lawsuit. But again, I don't know the details of it. But if I think I've seen a brief clip of Ronnie like really like honing in on like wanting to like bankrupt someone. I think it's just such a bad look. Regardless, I just think the actual like going out of your way to like make it public that you're doing this to someone just comes across as like a really weak move. But again, if I put myself in his position and there's someone that's like doing their best to spread information that is 100% incorrect about me that I know is 100% incorrect, and you've maybe gone out of your way to say that this isn't true, which I'm sure he has for years, months, whatever, then I guess. But I don't know. Again, just that idea. Like I think I've seen a clip of him talking about like bankruptcy and stuff, and it was similar to what Steve was saying with the Ellis Lepario one, but also it's like Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis after their whole like spat thing was like done and they had their fight and Logan Paul beat Dylan Dennis, and then he was like, I'm still gonna fucking make sure that you're completely bankrupt after this. It's like, come on, it's just so weak, you know. But
the Fantano videos though, if you watch them, like I have, and he just, you know, you can totally review a song and say you don't like it, right? But he goes more into personal attacking.
Yeah, it seems
so it's really a defamation of character.
If the information's false, then I guess it's defamation. But if it's out there in public and it's factual information, then I disagree that it's defamation, you know. But that's again where I don't know the ins and outs, and I don't spend enough time looking at it. But that's just the back and forth that I've seen, I guess. But yeah,
it'll be so interesting to see how that thing plays out.
Yeah, seriously.
It honestly feels like content, you know, for people to watch and for keep Ronnie's name, you know, like out there and stuff like that. Not saying that this isn't true or whatever, or he's not going to.
Not impossible.
Soon, I don't know. There's so much. I don't know. I see a whole. My brain had just blew up about like so many different stuff happening in like the Twitch, Twitter, politics world where everyone says that they're going to sue, but they never do. And I don't know. Some stuff. A lot of people say a lot of shit, but it just never happens at all. But people rile it up and put it up on everywhere. But that's my world.
What we should all do, perhaps, is take a leaf out of Runty's book and act with wisdom and grace and calmness and philosophy, and extend openly to others and have, you know, nuanced discourse as we do here on the Metal Roundup. So thank you very much, Runty, for joining us. Thank you to co-hosts Metalburb and Drew, and thanks to me. I'm going to awkwardly thank myself again because it's stupid. Thank you for
Steve.
watching and listening. If you enjoyed this, do
Steve.
subscribe, and hopefully you'll enjoy one of these episodes again in the near future. Cheers, folks.
Peace.
cheers.